Welcome to the Path Podcast, where we will travel the lives of some bold women, from dreams to detours to destiny. She did not choose this path chose her. This is the Path Podcast. Hey, welcome back, Path listeners, to the Path Podcast with your sister, your motivator, your confidence builder, the one who believes that purpose is bigger than obstacles. As I've stated in my last 1 to 2 episodes, Path listeners, I was listening and looking for a certain guest I wanted to help us close out the year. We talked about our money, we talked about our nutrition, and today, Path listeners, we are going to just breathe and speak with our therapist. So we can find out if we're truly okay. In 2022, the goal for the Path Podcast was for everyone to be healed and free. And I watched my guest. Some of her posts dealt with a lot of what I wanted to talk about. One, we were asked a question. She asked us, are we truly okay? Well, she first asked, are you okay? And then she asked, are you truly okay? Path listeners, we need to answer that question honestly for our mental stability. So today we're taking a deep breath again, like I've said, and releasing it out slowly so we can sit and chat with this amazing guest. This is my soror. I want to welcome her in, Dr. Shawn affectionately known to the world as Dr. Shawn, the LPC. Welcome in, Dr. Shawn. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for asking me to be here. I'm always humbled and delighted to share about mental health and wellness. And I'm just glad that you're spreading the message.
Well, no, thank you for saying yes. And when I heard you, everyone, let me tell you, let's let her tell us about herself first. And I'm going to tell you how I met her. So I like to read bios, the person's bios sometimes, but then I like for that person themselves to tell us about themselves because she's been out and about speaking in different events. And that's how I came to know her, even though she's my soror. And I was so moved by her. So I'm going to ask Dr. Shawn, tell us a little bit about yourself today, please.
Okay, so as you shared, my name is Shawn Fuqua. I am a native Detroiter, always representing Detroit, but I now call the Atlanta metro area my home. And a little bit about me is I am a therapist full time, but I'm also an educator. So I teach counseling students. I also teach psychology for a few institutions. And that actually was the bulk of my professional career was in education, teaching in higher education, but always having a love and a connection for community and wanting them to be aware of mental health. And I'm a mother, and I tell people mother of 7, so that kind of shocks people, but I'm a proud mother of a blended family. So I birthed 2 daughters, 2 amazing girls, but I also have 5 other children with my husband, and they're dynamic young people as well. So we have 3 sons there and 2 daughters there, and his son actually came to live with us in 2019. So I finally got my son, and his name is Cameron. So just Cameron taught me about being a mother of a son. And so between being a mother, a blended family, being an educator, going back to school, being a student, I just found that I want to be open to the experience. And being open to the experience, I want to help other people be open to the experience.
Wow, that's a mouthful right there. I love that. Be open to the experience. Everyone, let me tell you, I am going to try to see if we can get as much out of this conversation as we can. And I'm writing down as I write down, be open to the experience. And so there's so much I know we could talk about. And let me tell you, when she sent me her information, she didn't tell me nearly half of what she said. Thank you for sharing all of that. And everyone, we're going to find out more about her, about the work she's doing, and let her speak into all of us to help us, because right now when this airs, we're in the we will be in the middle of the holidays, and with so much going on. When I met her, the event we were at, it was a bunch of women talking about a lot of heavy topics. And by the time she was the last speaker to come to the podium, and when she came up, it's like we all could just breathe, and we took a sigh of relief from hearing so much of the topics that was discussed. And it seemed like we needed that release. And to me, that's what I think in the world we need. We, again, coming to the end of the year, we need to breathe and release some of the stuff that we're feeling. And again, like you said, be open to the experience, and just to know it's okay to be okay with being,
Yes.
not being okay if that is the case.
Yes.
And so to tell everyone what we're going to talk about today, it may go all over the place for me, but hopefully she will keep us on track. But the show is, we're going to talk about the emotions. We're going to do an emotions check-in, I've heard her say. We are asking the question today again, are you okay? And asking you to answer honestly. Holidays are here, like I said, dealing with all that 2022 brought or didn't bring. And for some, the past still creeps up in our lives over and over and over again. We need to be real. This is something I read on her page, and in some of her posts, is we need to be real, feel, and now it's time for us to heal. So that's what we're doing today, Path listeners, as well as understanding that mental health is in everything we do.
Yes.
Again, something I found her off her page. And I want to talk to her about something she's done studies in with African-American women and the mother-daughter relationship. Now, to start the podcast off with my question to you, Dr. Shawn, I want to ask about Rashawn, the one who thought she had life all figured out before she became Dr. Shawn. Tell me what were your hopes and dreams, and are you doing it today?
Oh, wait. Okay. So first, I guess I have to say, even starting with my name, I'm named after my father, who's Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And even for that name, I did not appreciate that name until I was well into my 30s. And so I've always gone by Shawn. Shawn was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Shawn was playful. Shawn was curious. Shawn didn't even realize how amazing she was. So I think in the beginning, while I had dreams, I never thought that I would be living my dreams. I would even say below what I thought. So the dreams were out there, but I never thought that I could really fully experience them. But I know how to have a good time. I know how to make you laugh. And, when you're around me, you're gonna feel something warm. So I knew that much about me.
Yes.
I think when I think about, am I living my dreams today? Absolutely. Because what I would say is I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My father was a business owner at one point in his life. So that was always there. That much I do know. In fact, I wanted to own a Mrs. Fields cookie, because I don't know if anybody remember Mrs. Fields in the mall. You used to get these warm cookies. So I wanted to own a Mrs. Fields cookies. That was the extent of that. But I knew that being a business owner could give me certain opportunities. But really, really, I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be heard. I wanted to be a speaker. And I never really thought that I would do that. Fast forward. Here I am. I've been able to speak in different capacities. I have my own business. I've had a private practice for probably about almost 15 years now.
Wow.
I've been a therapist almost 20. I did not want to be a therapist. I wanted to be a business owner.
Yeah.
So, but it came full circle.
Yeah.
Speaking, owning my own business, and amazing relationships, still being fun, making people laugh, and loving on people. So yeah, I am living my dreams.
Wonderful. So tell me though, since you had said this, why did you not want to be a therapist? And then what made you go into being a therapist?
So the short version of the long story is I worked
Mhm.
for Head Start,
Mhm.
and most of the women there already had master's degrees. I had a bachelor's in business, like I said, I wanted to own a business,
Mhm.
but it was a good job at the time.
Yeah.
And on that job, a lot of people would share stories. So I was an auditor,
Mhm.
and so you had to follow federal regs, and I would go out with my clipboard, and people would share all kinds of stories with me.
Mhm.
And so one of the things they told me if I wanted to move up, I needed a master's degree. So I really just jumped into a program
Mhm.
that I could get a master's degree. And I was like, okay, I'll learn how to listen to people and talk to people. And I did not want to do therapy.
Yeah.
I wanted to do speaking
Mhm.
and do workshops, but I did not want to do therapy. But it was also par for the cause. I worked with some incredible young people in Detroit, and something in me clicked about being able to hold a sacred space for somebody who's very vulnerable.
Mm.
And the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. I love that too. A sacred space for somebody who's really vulnerable. It's crazy how life we think we have it figured out for real what we're gonna do, and they always say God laughs at us, and it's like, okay, here you go planning your life, and that's not the route I want to take for you. And sometimes it pushes us. Some things just we fall into the right thing, even though you were on a path
Yes.
of owning a business, but it's amazing how that works. And again, that day when I met you at the event, you had a calmness about you. Even like you talk now, it's like the calmness you feel from the person, not only what they're saying, but still you get that feeling from some people. So it's wonderful, and I'm glad you fell into it, of course. And let me tell you, it's
Thank
something
you.
I heard on your page. I saw on your page you had a post. You said it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist, and
Hmm.
which is so true. So tell me this: you started where you were talking about be real, feel, and now heal. Tell us what that means and how that came to you, and why are you saying that?
So it kind of goes back to holding that sacred space so people could be vulnerable very often in all capacities, right? I
Mm-hmm.
like to tell people mental health is in everything you do. It is not just you going and talking to somebody, it is not just a prescription or a diagnosis or even them over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's in everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you want to be honest, sometimes you can't be honest with people you sleeping with,
Exactly.
people who live in your house, people you related to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of that, it was important for me to let people know it's okay even to feel that,
Yes. Yes.
because that's scary. Okay.
Yes.
And then to be honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have those two components, then we can get onto the healing path. Because again, often I see people, and this is just in general, this is not just in therapy,
Mm-hmm.
that they can't be honest. And you can't be honest, you're blocking something, you're holding something.
Yeah.
And so you might even have it in your head, like, oh, I can't talk to my mother, or, if they really knew this about me.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you say that inside, we need to process that. We need
Mm-hmm.
to put that somewhere. And that's where the be real comes in, and then the healing path. And it really just came to me
Mm-hmm.
one day as something that I wanted to share.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so and like you said, sometimes we feel like we can't be honest.
Absolutely.
How do you feel when, because if we go to therapy, we thinking at least there we can be. Do you ever run into cases, of course, where it's still hard for clients to come in and for us as clients to be real still, because either we're embarrassed, we're there of course to talk to
Absolutely.
you, but we still somewhat feel embarrassed to talk about how we truly feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's go back a little bit. So one thing I want to tell people, therapy may not be what you think it is, and therapy can be what you need. I'm
Mm.
gonna say that again. Therapy may not be what you think it is, but therapy can be what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And you are absolutely correct when people come in. So for instance, it is a place where what you share is
Yeah.
confidential. Now we have a little small window of what we,
Mm-hmm.
don't tell me you're planning to kill somebody or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
It's a little bit different.
Of course.
But it's your truth is held in confidentiality.
Yes.
And so people sometimes are afraid because we live in a very judgmental world, and very closed-minded people. If you aren't this, you're that, and so on and so forth. So yes, you do have people who it takes them a while to open up to speak their truth. But it has not failed yet, heard somebody talk about speaking their truth and not feeling better.
I so agree with that. I wrote something down where it said, emotional pain cannot kill you, but running from it can. So, like you said, if you admit how you're feeling and really sit in it, to me, you can only get to me only. That's me now, y'all. Arlene's little world. You can only get better. You have to really sit in it for that moment and really process it. Like you said it better than I did. I'm trying to learn not to repeat what I think somebody said because I can't say it the way you said it, being an expert. So I wish people would really get that. And my goal, even on the podcast, not being a therapist, is wanting people to speak their truth, find that voice, and share how they truly feel just on the surface if they've gone through things in their lives. And to me, I am a talker. I know a lot of people journal, a lot of people do a lot of different things to put their feelings down. I am a talker. I speak my feelings. I had to learn to do it the right way.
Yes.
But I've learned I'm one who has to get out of me what I'm feeling. And to me, I'm not saying that's always makes it just right. Not that I wouldn't need to talk to someone about how I feel, because we all feel. We all have those feelings where we need to talk to somebody. And like, I wish the same way we take time and work on our physical and everything else, that we really would make the time to go and sit down and talk to somebody. I wish that was something that became an annual thing, like going to our doctor for our annual checkup every year, making it a point to go speak to someone on the mental side, for our mental stability.
Absolutely. See, what I want people to understand is that your mental affects your emotional, your mental affects your physical, your mental affects your spiritual, your mental affects your sexual. Mental health affects every part of you. And so we spend a lot of time working on our physical health and not realizing that's why we don't have that fullness. That's why we don't have that peace, or we aren't able to navigate as freely as some other people's, because that mental part has not been checked. So let me break this down a little bit. First of all, I said mental health isn't everything you do. So mental health is how you feel. It is how you think. It is how you behave. Okay. And you could feel before you could speak.
Yes.
I need you to hear that. You could feel before you could speak. So there is a mother and a grandmother that knows that baby needs to be held. That baby needs to be changed. That baby needs a bottle. Why? Because the baby is communicating what they're feeling through those cries, right? Because the feeling is already there. What happens is, as we get older, we move away from what our emotions are trying to tell us. And I never tell people, I'm not telling you to just lean into your emotions. Acknowledge them. First, we got to be aware that we have them. Acknowledge it. So what I tell my clients, notice it, name it. What am I feeling?
Yeah.
And as you get older, you're usually feeling several things at the same time. So what am I feeling? Own it. It's okay that you feel that way. There is not right or wrong feelings. They're just trying to give you information, and then decide what you are going to do. Okay. And so mental illness is a little bit different than mental health, very often because of how mental health has been portrayed in the past. We associate it with mental illness. Mental illness is a part of mental health. It's just like it's a sickness. And sometimes there is a sickness. And if there's a sickness, you need to see an expert. You wouldn't go to the post office to get your teeth checked.
Exactly.
Okay. So you do need to work with somebody to find out there's a mental illness. And then we go into mental wellness. And once you are able to put those things in balance, you're able to teach your kids something different. Your relationships are different. How you feel and love on yourself, it becomes different. So yes, mental health is in everything you do. And if you don't address it, it will show up somewhere in one of those areas that I talked about: sexually, emotionally, mentally, physically, or spiritually.
Yes. Why is it not we still trying to fight to normalize mental health, or, someone going to talk to a therapist?
Remember we said earlier about judgment. Nobody wants to be judged. Who wants to be on the outside?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be on the outside. So I pretend
Yeah.
that it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or even when we grieve,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about the holidays brings a lot of sadness. Well, I got to pretend like I'm all right. Or even or is it okay for me to be happy? Will they judge me because I'm in a celebratory mood? What? You just lost somebody. You should. So again,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to be on the outside. That's why when you start talking about mental health or a challenge or me just trying to figure out where I fit,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even want to bring that up because that means something's wrong with you.
Exactly. Wow.
You're just trying to find your path.
Mm-hmm. You
That's
heard
all.
that. You're just trying to find our path. That is so true. And we don't want to feel like we're being judged. And it's sad though that we get to that place. And we feel like if we talk to one person and they just like, oh, you'll be okay. Or if someone else is sad, then if, like you said, if you just lost someone and you're in a good mood, and then someone to think something is wrong with you.
Right.
How do we fight through that though? Because that's true. My father passed in 2020, and I can imagine, feeling that way if it was like months later or during the holidays, and because we miss him during every Thanksgiving, of course, too. And knowing that the family was together, so much has changed from, even his passing. And it's just different. And we're all trying to process the differences. I guess I'm going from the question I was going to ask to say, with the families dealing with all of the loss that we dealt with going into the holidays, like we were saying, still, how do you process all the emotions that come up with the holidays? It's just like the holiday, we feel it, so like depression during the holidays, and it's supposed to be the happiest time of the year. Some maybe because of relationships,
Mm-hmm.
the loss of family members. Still, how do you deal with it? I mean, we talk about feeling it. I know that it's just still seem like it's easier said than done.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
absolutely easier said than done. I think, the first thing I would say is go to therapy. And
Yes.
I kind of chuckle because that's my go-to all the
Yeah.
time. But I do say that in regards to in recent years, when I first started this, therapy was not available to people. So again, if you were had federal funding programming or low kind of thing, they services were not available. And so now services are available. Health insurance has to carry mental health riders. That was changed in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say go to therapy, I mean, like, we have access now to providers who want to help you navigate through that process. And so I feel like it has to be an individual thing because one, I know, your path is different than my path, and, different than, my daughter's path, and so on and so forth. And so it's very hard to tell people, okay, this is what you need to do. Because when you talk about going through the holidays, why is it that I feel low? It could be very many things. I talked about the physical stuff, what are you eating? What kind of relationships are you in? How do you feel about your job? There could be various reasons. Or did you have a loss? Did you have a loss that you didn't really process?
Yes. All that. And just like
Yes.
everything we deal with is not a one size fit all. And so that's the part with dealing with everything, the individual. You're dealing with the individual.
Correct.
And I just did a recording with a dietitian, nutritionist, and she was saying the same thing. She still goes through everything from, because we're all different, the medications we're taking, what we're experiencing, and then she tailors that to like our health and what we're eating and putting in our bodies, thinking about what we're putting in our bodies, and, just doing the total work as well, just like you're saying. And it's something you said, that our emotions are energy emotion. Emotions are energy emotion. And are you emotionally attuned to it? So speak about that.
Emotions are energy in motion. So it's always, your emotions are always moving through you. And like I said, very often, the older we get, we move away from it. So the Feeling is the physical sensation that you have in your body that's trying to signal you to pay attention to something. And so that's where, and the emotions are going up to the brain. So the signals up to the brain, and there's different parts of the brain that's trying to get you to pay attention to stuff. And so when I say energy and motion, it's like your feelings and stuff, it's always moving.
Yes.
Even if you acknowledge it or not, it's always moving. You know, traffic, what does that do to you? When the phone rings, deadlines, having to go to the grocery store, decorating the house, cooking, are people coming? Have you been to the Atlanta airport? Okay. So you know what I mean? So it's always, it's signaling. It's always signaling. So the more you recognize it, the easier it becomes to address it. Now, we haven't talked about trauma a lot. Yeah. So when you add that in, that's a whole nother layer of how do we navigate that? You know, and again, you cannot ignore it. It will show up.
You cannot ignore it. That's some of the things about looking at all of this. I keep seeing over and over again from even the different people I've watched so far. They're saying you cannot ignore this stuff. And everyone out there, if you haven't heard anything from her, it's we have to deal with it. That's the point. And we have to be okay going to find that person that we feel comfortable talking to, and that safe space like you have on your page. You know, you said it's a place where you can be heard and heal. And that's what everybody needs to look for. You need to find that person where you can feel like you're being heard and they're acknowledging to what you're saying and heal from it. It is so time. I just wish everybody can just walk in their fullness. And that is, if I could have any dream, that is one of the reasons why I started the path. It's not just because of what I know when I went through my divorce, it's like I found my voice again. And it's like I told everyone, it's not because I ever lost it. It's just, I silenced it. I silenced it myself, and my ex didn't silence it. It's just, you know, sometimes as women, we silence who we are, you know, not saying for bad reasons all the time, but as we're raising our families, we're, you know, in a new marriage, or just going through and moving in life even. And so we silence the things that we found out we first love. It sometimes takes some major things to make us, to find our path back to who we truly are. And I'm thinking, and therapy can do that for some of you if you've been keeping secrets and holding things that you feel so ashamed about. And like you said, we didn't deal with the trauma. I want to ask this question. This wasn't one of my questions, but if there is someone out there, and I know you can't dissect all of it and give me one answer. I know that, but we still just want to hear what you would say. If there is someone out there, I want to deal with this one topic, who was molested. If they were molested by a family member that they're afraid to go and say anything, they're probably 15, 20, 30 now. What would you recommend to a person like that?
So, you know, again, reiterating, you definitely seek therapy. Having had special training in people who have experienced sexual assault, it is a layered level of healing, which is why you want to work with an expert. And I want to reiterate, it is something that you cannot hide from. You might think that you're hiding from, but I want you to understand there has been research attached to how physical autoimmune issues show up from unhealed trauma. And so it becomes important that you talk about it. We go through different things such as your self-image and how you see yourself, how you trust in relationships. We go through family dynamics, because you mentioned in this particular instance, if it was a family member, all of those things play into it. Was it a family member? How long? What type of violation it was? We go through all of those things. Sex, you know, sexuality and how you show up sexually is, you know, sex is a very normal, natural thing, but that's not natural, nor is it normal. So it changes how you show up in that space. And so I would definitely, you know, say to work with somebody who has had the additional training to help you find that path. The other thing I tell people is it can be a long path. Now, here's what I mean. I just mentioned sexual image, sexuality, family dynamics, your intimate relationships. And so I wouldn't expect you to do all of that in one sitting. So usually what I do when I work with a person, we start with the where they are. So what is the most crucial thing that they want to work on? Is it, their relationships? Is it how they see themselves? And then we go from there. And very often I say, it's okay if you need a break.
Yeah.
Supposed to take a break, because remember I told you how mental health affects your spirit. That affects your spirit.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. So we're talking about healing from the spirit, then going into these different places, emotions, mental, physical, sexual, etc.
Exactly. And that's something I can see that it'll affect everything that we deal with, if depending on the person. So that's good. I just wanted to put that out there because I wanted to do a show on families with these silent secrets.
I think we have to, the one thing that I want people to understand is, like, once you speak on it, we can begin the healing process. It is levels. Remember, I understand levels, so people can speak on it, but then there's other levels to it. How do we get it out of our spirit? Because sometimes you can say it and it still doesn't change anything. Sometimes, even as a child, it's like, well, nobody will believe me, or you're acting out. And you're trying to get somebody to ask the right questions, because you don't know how to say the words. If you were a teenager, and these are just kind of instances that have come across my table, and you were at a party, you drank too much. So now I don't want my mother to know I drank too much and somebody violated me at a party, but you're acting out. So it happens a lot more often, unfortunately, than people realize. And I just want people to know it doesn't go away. You have to heal it from the inside out, from the root.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And the episode I did earlier in October, and I only say it because she shared the story on the path. And she spoke about that when she was molested at 6. And, it was a family member, and she told, and how she was chastised for it. And she said herself how the result of it was she became very promiscuous, and, started later on. She talked about the other things that I'm sure came out of that too. But she said drug was heavily in her family. And I always say I won't tell it all because it's not my story to tell. But she told us, she was very transparent on the Path podcast. She said it was until she was in her 30s when a counselor took her to a playground, showed her other 6-year-olds, and asked, does she think that 6-year-old could defend themselves? Was it her fault? Do you think it would be that 6-year-old's fault? And she said until that happened in her 30s, she took up until that time that she thought it was her fault. And they made her think, the people who in her family made her feel that it was because of her actions as a 6-year-old. It blows my mind, and it's unfortunate. And like you said, I believe it's levels, and it's not just an easy thing, but it's levels, and get the right people, because even with therapists, everybody has different trainings, and it's finding that right therapist that can help you. We have to do this research again on our own therapists, I'm sure.
Let me say this about the therapist, and this is one of the things I said. Your therapist is somewhere between your medical doctor and the person that does your hair. And what I mean is, the medical doctor you see once or twice a year. A therapist you're going to see on a weekly, consistent basis, but they have skills and training to handle certain things. And so while you may talk to somebody in a more general term, or, you're talking to people that you can trust, when you sit in the chair, you're getting your hair done and so on and so forth, you're sharing. But if the person didn't do your hair right, you're like, yeah, I ain't coming back here again. Or but you won't stop getting your hair done. You're going to find the right person. And so it has to be a relationship where trust happens. And so I want people to also know and understand that, because a lot of times they think it's, the doctor you call who's on your insurance card, you call, you pick up, you go. But this is different. This is a sacred relationship. So it has to be a connection in the beginning. And so, like I tell people, one or two times, go with your question.
Mhm.
This is your trusted professional.
Exactly.
And so, again, they're going to have additional training to help carry you through whatever the situation is.
Mhm.
But it is not like your medical doctor. So if it doesn't work, we aren't offended. Find somebody else, please. We know that it has to be a click. Something has to happen. You have to feel comfortable because it's going to go into a deep space. You have to be willing to open up.
Yes, exactly. And I think people, when you care about the total well-being of a person, people understand that because it has to click. I believe that as well. And thank you for sharing it that way. It puts it in perspective for us to stay between that doctor and that hair, your stylist, because
Yeah.
it puts it in perspective for us. I promise you. So everyone, for sake of time, we'll move on because we could talk to, wish I could have Dr. Shawn come in every week and talk to us, give us that 2-minute nugget. She's dropped so many things here today, and we thank you again for doing that. So I want to talk briefly about it. Well, not briefly, but just talk about something I saw on your page where you said you've done studies dealing with African American women and the mother-daughter relationship. What made you do um, that study?
Well, how did that come about?
Yes.
So, my PhD
Mhm.
is in gender differences of African American women compared to the general public. And in my study, I actually looked at the mother-daughter relationship of African American women and their daughters. And so there were some interesting things that came up there. And we know mother is the pinnacle of the community, especially the African American community. Mother or grandmother, the matriarch, she is the voice, she is the lead.
Yeah.
But when you start adding in other
Mhm.
things to that, there are things that can be missed that a child needs that she didn't get from her mother.
Mm.
And then that leaves an opening or in spiritual, church folks, we call an opening,
Yes.
for the enemy to come in, or a wound,
Mhm.
that emotional wound. And so it made me want to look at that relationship a little bit more. And so the study that I've put together now is the Black women's stress indicators, because one of the things I thought about, I said, you have to think, for African American women, we never not worked. And what do I mean? Like, from the time we came from this country. And so after that, we went into caregiver roles where we worked in homes, we cooked, we took care of people's children, that we were laundress,
Mhm.
up into the 60s. And then from there were opportunities given with equal opportunities. So they started putting Black women in certain
Mhm.
positions to have affirmative action and those kind of things. So we've always worked outside of the home.
Yes. Yeah.
And that work does something to you.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my first thing, like, okay, like, there's stressors that come with work.
Mhm.
And so my study wanted to look at the stressors from the point of, do Black women have different stressors than other women? um, and not to exclude, when I did the study, I did look at different ethnicities, but of course, I'm a Black woman. I come from a Black woman. I've raised young Black
Yeah.
women, and so I just wanted to know a little bit more about us, and so that's what I'm working on now, to see do we have different stress indicators? And we talked offline about hair.
Yes.
You
Mhm.
know, I've had conversations about how we worry about our children being pulled over by the police.
Yes.
That's something that Black women experience that other women may or may not. And so really, that's what I want to look at right now, to see what our stress indicators are, and then continue the research on how we mother.
Exactly. And the one thing I read about the mother-daughter relationship is that this relationship is central to women understanding themselves. So that dynamic with mother
Yes.
and daughters coming together, it is truly, if a young lady didn't have that relationship with their mother, I know it could be hard, and truly
Yes.
understanding who you are, if you didn't feel like you had that guidance from her. Or I don't know if it's different if it's a grandmother that raises you versus or auntie, but it still is central to our understanding of ourselves. So That is wonderful to understand that. So far in your studies, have you found something that has shocked you or that's very stands out?
Oh, you know what, Miss Arlene, we might have to come back and do another show on that.
Please.
Really to see what comes, because there's several things that came
Okay.
up.
And it's okay if you don't
Um,
want to talk about it right now.
and no, I was gonna say it's just several things that came, like four things popped in my head that we could really go down. And so, like we talked about, like because we talked about sexual stuff, like that has come up, and I was like, oh my goodness. So that's why I was like, I'm not just talking.
Yeah.
I actually have research because that's one of the questions. The hair was on there, being in leadership at your job. So it's just certain things that are coming up that I was like, oh wow, like these we my and I do have to acknowledge my mentor and co-owner of the Licensed Professional Counselor Institute, Dr. Cheryl Merchant. She and I are working on the study together.
Mhm.
And so again, she has daughters. And so we just kind of talked about some of the things that we've experienced in our sister circles. And we put that onto an already stress indicator that's used in mental health.
Mhm.
And so it's like, yes, we're seeing it, like, yes, it is stressful for us when we are in leadership roles at
Mhm.
work. It's stressful for us, to deal with our hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so several things that came up. So surprising, but not surprising. More so like I knew I wasn't the only one.
I think we've all had that part that like, I am not the only one. And to know that, that's why it's going to be so good. And I'm glad you're tailoring it to, like you say, who we are. I can't wait. And we may have to one day beg her to come back, everyone. And so we can talk about that study when it's out. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it as we, follow you more. So that's going to be wonderful to hear. So I want to move into this book you have. That is the cutest book, everyone. It's a children's. She's an author of a children's book, in the series is called Being Bailey Day series. And but
Mhm,
the book is called Growing Places with Bailey. Is that correct?
mhm,
So tell
yes,
us about the
yes.
book, why you wrote it, and what is it doing?
Oh, yeah. Bailey was birthed during the pandemic, but the idea probably came several years early of just wanting to make sure that people knew that children have feelings too. We talked about earlier the importance of emotional regulation, of being able to teach children words to identify their emotions. Because, as I said, as we get older, we've moved away from them. And so that's where the idea came from. It's like, I just want to help parents um, talk about it. So at the back of the book, I have what I call the learning pages. And so the series, the first book that is out and available now is about Bailey, who's seven and a half. She's in the second
Oh.
grade. Very curious. Um, Ask a lot of questions. Bailey comes from parents who do not live together, because we see that with a lot of children. And
Mhm.
so in the series, there's going to be a book that talks about that. The first book that's out talks about Bailey doesn't like to read out loud. And then she has a mother who's a teacher.
Really?
So, it's just like, okay, like how does this work? And
Yeah.
how does her mother help her find her way through that? And so again, you got the learning pages, so you can, and I suggest ways that you can talk to children about things that may be bothering them, also identifying things that Bailey dealt with, as well as putting what I call emotional literacy
Mhm.
terms that are related to the feelings that we're feeling, that so you can become emotionally knowledgeable, as well as teaching that to your children. And so I really see it good for any elementary school child. The second grade and third grade, they definitely could read the book on own, but even to young children, teaching them and asking them questions, or even older kids. And I also put in there, what's the alternate ending? What could you do? What are you worried about when you go to school? Those kind of things. And so that's how Bailey came to be.
Yes.
I love the illustrators. They did
They
such a
did.
wonderful job, and just kind of my vision of just a regular old second grader. And that actually came, just to add that, I spoke to a group of second graders, and this was probably at a career day,
Mhm.
and I spoke to all of the classes. The second grade asked the most questions. It
Really?
blew me away. Yes, it blew me away. And so I was like, oh, somebody needs to talk to these babies.
Thank you.
Let's start talking to
And
them.
starting at that younger age is a good time to start talking to them. Let us know how we can connect with you and how we can get the book.
Absolutely. So the book is available through the website Being Bailey Day. So that's
Mhm. Mhm.
www.beingbailey.com. And there is a digital copy. So if you want to download it and put it on a digital device, and then there's also the actual book that you can get. And if you want to, I sign the book. I autograph the book. I leave messages in there if you are sending the book to a little
Mhm.
person that's special to you. So the book comes from me, my home, and I say this
Mhm.
packaged with love.
Mhm.
And for contact, you can follow me on all social media at Dr. Dr. Shawn, SHAWN, the THELPC, which stands for Licensed Professional Counselor. So that's Twitter, that's Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, I don't have any videos on TikTok, but they're
They're
coming.
coming.
They are coming, and I try to keep my content. You do get a little bit of my personal life, but I try to keep mental health awareness, mental health information, sharing things, sharing resources. I post other people.
Mhm.
Um, my website is www.drshawn thelpc.com. I do see clients. Currently, I'm booked. And it's funny because we did talk about that. The mother daughter thing, when I started my business here in Georgia,
Mhm.
it exploded. In 30 days, I was full, Arlene. And I literally have to say, thank God
Yeah.
I've never stopped being full. Like people call constantly every week. I am not advertised on
Mm.
anything, and people continue to call, either resources or heard about
Mhm.
me. And so it's been wonderful in that instance. But if you do call, I do try to connect you with other people. So that's been another thing for me to connect with other therapists and to have resources, because I want you to know there's somebody out there
Mhm.
waiting for you. And so I tell my counseling students that,
Mhm.
and I'm telling you that there's somebody out there waiting to speak with you, and there's somebody out there waiting for you to show up to do what you have been called to do.
There's somebody out there waiting for you to speak to
Mhm.
you. So let me ask you this for sake of time. Everyone, she's busy, as she said. So tell us all the services that you do offer in your business, just so people, if they want to get on your waiting list.
So I offer individual counseling. Right now, I do have individual counseling, and we are talking about coaching services coming in
Mhm.
2023. And the Institute will launch training for counselors, therapists. When I say counselors, we are also going to expand and doing some things for the general public through the training, because we just want to raise awareness.
Exactly.
And so yes, I offer individual
Mhm.
counseling. Coaching will be coming in 2023 if it's needed. And I'm laughing because I don't even have time to pull the program together because the phone keeps ringing, and I usually don't add more than 3 people on the waiting
Mhm.
list, and I ask them to be patient if I can get them in. And so I don't want people to wait
Of
any longer than
course.
30 days. I think when somebody's calling, you want to get them in. But that's why we're going to do our online training program through the Institute, where I do face-to-face stuff now for
Mhm.
counselors. But we said we want to raise awareness just in the general public, so you can know, how to talk to your children, how to talk to your spouse, how to deal with
Yeah.
conflict on your job. All of that is mental
All that is
health.
mental health. And when I heard that again, when you said that, and like you said throughout the podcast, everything we touch is understanding it's mental health. And you said the
Yes.
job, everything is mental health. And I love and thank you for still being such a heart where you say you'll find someone for them if they need to talk to someone, and you won't hold no one for 30 days, hold that space, on a waiting list because you
Hmm.
care. You're
Correct.
thinking about the people. She's not sitting, you're not someone who just trying to get clients only.
Mm-mm.
You're there for the
No.
reason that you're there. while you're a licensed therapist. So thank you. You're licensed here in Georgia and your home state
In
in Michigan?
Michigan, that's
Okay.
correct. I'm licensed in Georgia and in
Okay.
Michigan.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So one of my last questions, I have one or two more things. Tell me, how does Dr. Shawn, the LPC, relax? What do you do?
It's so funny. People can't see us. I started smiling from ear to ear because I said she's going to ask me, what do I do for
Yeah.
self-care, or how do I take care of myself? So first of all, I have to give a shout out to my amazing
Oh.
husband. And the reason why I say that, he is a part of my self-care. My husband lays a stage for his wife to be great in whatever it is she wants to
Oh, I
do.
love that,
We
everybody. I have to
dated for
cut
a
in. I
very
love that.
we dated for a very long time, as a divorced woman getting back out there. And so he reminds me to take a break. He makes sure that we do things together in terms of dating, or just watching movies. We have a family that live down here now. We visit with our family. So we're doing something once or twice a month so I can laugh and decompress. But I also, like, he sets it up like I don't work, but 4 days a week.
Good.
He's like, I need you to be able to rest. So he's a big part of that. Um, I also do deep breathing, and so we're going to close with the deep breathing. I do stretching, I do yoga. So what I try to do is have something daily, meditation, prayer. My silent time where I'm quiet. So that's a daily thing, and then I have my weekly where I do my stretching, or yoga or exercise. Right now, I done gave up my gym membership. Y'all help pray for me. But I'm stretched though. I do go to the stretch
Yeah.
place. And then the monthly, or like just enjoying him. And I'm grateful for him, of just kind of saying, okay, like, like, take a break, back away from that, come on out the office, shut the door, and breathing. And it wasn't until I really got the additional training on trauma of the importance of breathing. I talked about, if you do not process it, it stays somewhere in your body. It builds up if you do not process it. That's where GI issues come in, heart issues come in, back issues come in, migraines come in. And so breathing has become one of those things that I do when I sit quietly by myself. And so whenever you're ready to close out, I want to close out with a breathing
Oh,
exercise.
please. Okay. So everyone, let me tell you, I just have to go. I get so giddy on on what you said with your husband, because I love that we can lift them, because he lifts you, and he's
Mhm.
covering you, and it's a beautiful thing. And everyone, so I'm thankful to hear that from about your husband. So everyone, let me tell you how we're going to do end the show differently today. I was going to ask you, Dr. Shawn, to share some last thoughts of something I didn't ask that you want to add. And so I'm going to put that to the end along with the breathing. I read something where it said, again, I said it earlier, emotional pain won't kill you, but running from it can. If you are feeling
Absolutely.
anxiety, pain, or grief, feel it, as she's talked about. It's going to hurt, but the way out is to go through it. As Dr. Shawn stated, and I quote, we need to be real, feel, and heal. Consider reaching out to Dr. Shawn, or find a or like she said, if not, if she's booked, she will help you find someone who can help you get through whatever you're trying to get through. And I also wanted to share, if you are dealing with something and can't get to someone, consider reaching out to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline if it gets to that point, where you can reach them at www.988lifeline.org, or text 988, because we want everyone to be okay wherever you are, and to know that there are people out there wanting to make sure you are okay. So today I want to turn it back over to Dr. Shawn and ask her to please share any last thoughts you have. Again, where if something I didn't ask that is important to share, and then take us, if so, to the breathing, through the breathing exercise that you wanted to do.
Okay, absolutely. Just to echo what you said, there is somebody waiting to speak from you in whatever capacity. If you find yourself in a very dark space, we have suicide lines that you can also text 988 and someone will find you. I've also shared links that will be available with the podcast where you can reach out to resources because even if you don't need it, maybe you can be a resource for someone else. Would also have my contact information in there. And like she said, if I cannot assist you, I will definitely guide you or direct you to uh, people who can. There is someone waiting to speak with you. So I just want you, if you are driving, you can do this breathing. But if you are somewhere where you can close your eyes, I ask that you close your eyes. And I want to talk about the importance of breath. It moves that emotion through. It is taking in good air and releasing carbon and just kind of letting it go. And so we're going to inhale through our nose and taking a deep breath, kind of like with a count of 8. We're going to hold for 4 seconds. The power is in the hold. The hold is like a reset button to a part of the brain we call the polyvagal nerve. And then you're going to release with a count of 8, descending 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We do that 4 times. 4 is a significant number for me because it is the foundation. It has 4 corners for you to stand on. I promise you, if you do this, you will be able to tell the difference just in the moment that you're in. This is the way that I start my day. But now we're going to close out this podcast with breathing. Breathe with me. Inhale, hold, release. Inhale, hold, release. Your mouth. Inhale, hold, release. Last one, taking in good air. Inhale, hold, release. Thank you again for creating a space for me to pour into you. Thank you so much, Arlene, for having me on the podcast.
Until next time, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and other platforms so you can stay up on our bi-weekly, real conversations with these bold women. You can follow the Path Podcast on Facebook at the Path Podcast and on Instagram and Twitter at the Path_podcast. And if you would like to be a guest on the show or have questions for a future show, you can email us at thepath4ward@gmail.com. That's thepathforward@gmail.com. And if you're looking for a speaker or you're in need of a life coach, please reach out to me. Again, at thepathforward@gmail.com or at ACKORLEH@gmail.com. Thank you. Until next time.